Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of the Nyc Griff Show. Today is Saturday, February 19th, 2022, and it is 9 a.m. sharp. Let's get into this quick market check. Griff, what have you seen in the markets this week? What have you thought here?
I didn't pay too much attention to my wallet, but that's because, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, so I really don't care. It looks like Bitcoin's been, I guess you could say, between like 32,000 and 69,000. It's been going up and down for quite some time now. So this is a relatively good time to buy it. Everything else, it's really hard to see how it's going to get better, considering a lot of the inside trading got exposed this past week, if I saw correctly.
Oh, are you talking about the Federal Reserve deal?
Yeah, and just like now it's all of a sudden they can't basically trade or, play games essentially. And obviously I think that's the right thing to do, but that probably was a good chunk. Like, that's a good chunk of money. More likely, investor confidence just goes down in times of uncertainty like this. And at the same time, there's a rate hike coming. Just a whole bunch of, we might be going to war. Who knows, like, what's going on. Market's not doing well. Not too surprising. But like I said, one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. So thankfully, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't really have
100%. I don't know. I just posted a little bit about it on Twitter the other day. Posted a couple of screenshots, some charts. But we always say, we get into the market check, and it's like, yeah, we want to check in on the price here. Oh, for you guys that are listening, the price today is 39,977. So we're sitting right under 40,000. So, anyways, we always get to the point of one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, right? It's funny. So most people are so comfortable with the dollar. That they don't realize that this is also true for the dollar, but there's a little twist at the end here. So $1 is $1, 100%, right? But we know that the Fed can print money and inflate the value of it, right? The buying power can be eroded, but $1 is $1, right? If you compare $1 to $1, they equal the same, right? If you look at the charts, they're flat. It's a flat chart. But if you compare the dollar's value to a euro or a yen or Bitcoin or anything else, then you will see the value go up and down and up and down, right?
Still hovers around $1, right, against everything else.
Yeah, it all hovers around the dollar for sure. But it's interesting to see, like, oh, everybody thinks like the dollar is just like a flat value, but it's technically not.
The thing about it is purchasing power. I mean, that's really all that matters, right? I mean, at the end of the day, It's like, what does the value within that dollar mean? And I saw on Twitter this week, it was like some Bitcoin guy. He was like, it's funny how many people start saying one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin once the price goes down. And I was like, yeah, except for we say it like we've said it this whole time. Like, I mean, it's something that I've said since I heard it because it's the truth. What you really should be looking at with Bitcoin in terms of as an investment is what's your purchasing power with it. And I would say a lot of people would argue that you shouldn't be touching your Bitcoin until one Bitcoin's buying you like a castle. Like, I mean, like, you just shouldn't touch it until the purchasing power of it. When we enter more of a Bitcoin standard, that's when you should touch some of it. Or if, I know a lot of people think, and, who knows, that we will still have currencies and then it'll be backed by Bitcoin. I think, Nick, you're kind of more on that line of thought than I am. But one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. What that means is that it'll always be one of 21 million that are ever distributed by the network. What that means is it can never get devalued against inflation or time. And so it's super important to always highlight when we look at that market, no matter what the price is, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. It's a long long-term play. Who cares what it's going to be worth in dollars? A lot of them. It's more like, you know, with all these price projections, it's more like until the money printer goes burr to buy Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden we're going to be in a hyper Bitcoin state, and it won't matter how much you buy, you're going to be out. You can't buy more than the US government.
What, let me switch gears on you here. I was just, what are you doing? I was just looking through our Twitter and was seeing what I had posted the other day about you know, how do you save Bitcoin? How do you buy Bitcoin? Do you have a system for that? And I was looking at this. This is what made me think of it. Can you see yeah, you can see me here. But you know, I have 20% directly deposited to Strike, and then I had 100% of that amount convert automatically to Bitcoin. I actually just changed the process yesterday, and I set up an hourly buy for every hour for 24 hours for 14 days because I get paid every other week. I've got it set up to where I do hourly purchases, and the amount that I've got it set to, it will burn up. It will buy all Bitcoin with the dollars that were deposited to Strike by the time I get paid next time. So I've got all of these like hourly buys coming through. Dude, I'm getting so many emails, but it's kind of interesting because you go through and it's to start, it was 1900, huh?
You see how many sats you buy.
Yeah, it was 1960 the first one, and then it was 1954, so the price went up and I bought actually less with that same amount of money. And then it was 1971, 1975, 1983, 1987. So with the same dollar amount, I'm able to buy more, possibly less, if price goes up. But if price goes up, I mean, what are we worried about? You know what I mean?
I really like the dollar cost averaging because there's so often I get paid and then I'm not going to get paid for 2 weeks, and I have whatever amount of money that I have sitting in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Buy your Bitcoin with your cash, which would be a great investment. But you know, how often does it go down 50% or then goes up 15% or whatever it might be? And I'm just like, okay, you can't time this market. I just want to buy it. Like, I just want to buy the Bitcoin at the best price possible, like on average over these 2 weeks. And it's really cool that you can do that with Strike.
Here's a cool deal from you. I had this little Tulsa finance guy page on Instagram for a little while, and dude, the dollar cost averaging thing is crazy. So before I get into this little example here, Janae and I have been buying Bitcoin every paycheck for several months now at this point. And when we originally started buying, the dollar price of one Bitcoin was right around 57,000. And then we went up to 69,000, right? And then we came back down, and now we're sitting right under 40,000, right? The price has not come back to that point, but because we've dollar cost averaged our way through, we're still down all time, but we're down significantly less than had we just put one big lump sum in. And this little example here, I don't know if you're reading through it, but it really brings it to life. So you have $500 to invest. Now you could invest that all in one sum, but you're going to dollar cost average, and you're going to invest $100 a month for 5 months, right? Equaling your total $500. So in month one, your $100 buys 4 shares of a company. We're talking about equities here, but the same is true with Bitcoin, right? $100 bought 4 shares at $25 each. Month 2, we bought 5 shares for $20 each. Month 3, we bought 10 shares at $10 each. And month 4, we bought 5 shares at $20 each. And then in month 5, last month, we spend $20 each for 5 more shares. So at the end of the 5 months, we've got a total of 29 shares, right? And this is the $500 that we'd spent. So after the 5th month, you own 29 shares with an average cost of $19 a share, right? If you just average those out, that's $551 in value for $500 invested, and the share price never rose above the original $25. That's a 10.2% rate of return. Dude, that's crazy, right? I mean, you originally bought in at 25. Think of if you had bought in all $500 at 25, and now the last price right in month 5 is $20. Well, you're down, right? You're down $5 on each of those shares, right? However many that would have bought at the time, right? $500. Well, the what? Anyways, so I mean, the power of dollar cost averaging, dude, is really cool.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I think it's
so.
good.
So I was going to ask you. So what kind of system do you have right now as far as buying Bitcoin? I know that you may have used don't you use the Fold card as well?
I use Fold. It's a Bitcoin rewards debit card where I just pay my bills on there and I get it back with spins. You can get up to like 10%. It's pretty crazy. Fold. No free advertisements though. So I can't.
You said there is free advertisements?
I said we can't give out free advertisements. So, but cool Bitcoin rewards debit card. I think it's cool because not everybody wants to use a credit card all the time. So if you have bills you're going to pay with a check or debit, you can get Bitcoin back for it. I get Bitcoin back on my rent, like 5%. 5%.
Do you really?
Yeah, 5% of my rent I get back. So I'll get like 70,000 sats for one rent payment, which is pretty awesome.
That's dope. I need to look into this because I'm not using any of that stuff.
Oh, I do that, and then I just buy on Strike. Strike is, it's a decentralized app built on the Lightning Network, and I like that. And it's very easy to transfer it into my Blue Wallet, and it costs nothing to actually make transfers. So that's how I do it. I don't really do the dollar cost averaging every time. I will make like 200 or a million sats at a time or something like that. Right now, to be honest with you, like I feel like anytime I see a 3 on it, I want to smash the buy button really hard. But I do think that
starts with a 3, huh?
I think Bitcoin has a ways to go up in 2022 because money is just going to shift. And even in times of a recession, Bitcoin is still less than $1 trillion asset. So even in the short term, looking at it, if Bitcoin is what it's meant to be, like an inflation hedge or digital gold, or as we know, the network itself is getting stronger. I mean, the hash rate is going up. People getting Lightning nodes is going up. So the fundamentals of Bitcoin are going up. The price might not be going up right now, but the fundamentals are. I'm just saying that in the short term, as in the next few weeks, I do see how Bitcoin could continue to go down a little bit. But over the next 3 to 6 months, I don't really see how it's not going to come roaring back over its like last all-time high. I don't really do price predictions or anything. But there's nothing telling me, Nick, that Bitcoin is done in 2022 or that we're in some kind of bear market. We've kind of been in one since the 69,000 first all-time high. And, that's just kind of my thoughts on some of the short-term, long-term. I mean, it's easy to scare Bitcoin right now. It's under $1 trillion, but when the housing market, takes a little dive, when quantitative easing really leaves the markets next month, when they start tapering for real, and they raise interest rates, even though they're not going to raise them enough for the climate that we're in, but they're going to raise them. Hey, all I'm going to say is a lot of money is going to have to transfer, and it's going to transfer into savings accounts of all kinds. And Bitcoin is, if anything, a savings account, if you ask me. I mean, it simply is a really high potential return savings account at this point in time, but it is what it is. People just don't understand it yet. So
you were kind of mentioning it earlier, as far as, moving money. You said you use Strike because it's free. Another cool deal, and I was looking at it this morning and got this set up this morning. But this is a little screenshot from Ally Bank, who Janae and I will use as a separate savings account. They've got some cool like little online savings, right? Like we're huge on we're Bitcoin maximalists, right? And we're gonna get into that, I think, here in just a second. But being Bitcoin maximalist, I still believe that it is important to have an emergency fund, to have cash on the sideline. We've got to be ready for real life, type emergencies, right? Because The last thing you want to do is just have to sell all your Bitcoin because, XYZ happened and you weren't prepared for it. So that being said, we do use different savings account. We're not talking about like huge lump sums of money. I mean, this is a $35 transfer over that we'll do a couple times a month. But anyways, this is what I was looking at here. This transfer speed. Look at this. 3 days. Took me 3 days, dude, to send $35 from my Chase bank, which I am going to be switching from Chase. I think I'm getting away from the big banks, dog. I am moving from Chase Bank to a more local bank here in Tulsa, I believe. But anyways, 3 days to transfer from Chase to Ally. I mean, that's ridiculous, dude. Like, why does that take that long? That is so dumb. So what I did was connected Ally to Strike, and I can send money free of fees to Strike from my Chase account, and then from Strike to Ally for $0, and it's like super quick.
That's pretty cool. Well, Strike, you can put money on Strike for free from like any bank account it accepts, right? Like it's super low fees.
There's no fee. It says no fee.
Yeah, but Nick did say it. Like we're gonna put out 2 episodes this week, which is like semi-exciting. But the first one we just wanted to talk about. We've been talking about how we've been investing in Bitcoin, I guess, to kick it off today. But Strike to Blue Wallet, get your own keys, get it off exchanges. Even, fundamentally, we should be running our own node to really protect it and to have it on a hardware device. But I don't necessarily feel like Blue Wallet is unsafe, or just having, a hardware wallet like that is unsafe. You're probably okay. But they're going to come for your Bitcoin. I'm telling you, if you have it on an exchange and you didn't like properly report it on taxes or whatever it might be, they're going to find a way to come get it from you. They did it with gold. They're going to do it with Bitcoin, without a doubt. And you probably need to learn how to self-custody. But that goes into the conversation. Not enough people are Bitcoiners in the world right now. Not enough people are seeing the true value in the Bitcoin network. And that's what me and Nick were going to touch on this morning. And it's just that, what is a Bitcoiner? Like what makes somebody a Bitcoiner? And I certainly have my thoughts, I guess. I would say there's just like probably a few floor type things. Like if you don't understand this, or you've never read this, or you don't have this much allocated to it, I probably wouldn't say you're a Bitcoiner right now, just being honest. But those are just kind of where I would start out. What do you think a Bitcoiner is, Phil?
Man, are we talking about a Bitcoiner, like a Bitcoin maximalist? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't really understand.
Or like
Bitcoin maximalist is more like somebody who thinks Bitcoin's going to 100 million a coin, and there's no other thing that could ever disrupt Bitcoin, and there's nothing that's wrong with it. And I don't really think that. I just mean a Bitcoiner. I mean somebody who understands the true difference between crypto and Bitcoin, somebody who understands what a node is, somebody who understands how nodes work with each other, somebody who understands how mining operates, and somebody who understands that there are investable pieces into the digital age with not just Bitcoin. There are other projects, and I don't mean crypto projects. I just mean there's other things going on in the world that support the Bitcoin thesis. So people who can kind of wrap their minds around a Bitcoin world as they see technology taking over, and human capital really kind of taking a decline, especially in the talent department in certain really developed countries. People can see where a deflationary Bitcoin environment, where it could be. And I think what a Bitcoiner is somebody who sees that as more of a utopian society rather than dystopian, which, I think that's what makes the difference between a lot of these altcoins and Bitcoin. It's like, dude, I don't think you want a shadow organization running your Netflix account. Like, I don't think you want them running your Twitter because you think it's Web3 or decentralized or this, that, or the other thing. And it's not. And that's not what, what we're trying to evolve to, I don't think. And so I just think a Bitcoiner is somebody who at least fundamentally understands how we could get to the end. Like, a Bitcoiner is somebody with a very aggressive end game for Bitcoin. That's it. I mean, just a really aggressive, optimistic look at what Bitcoin could be for the world in like 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years.
Yeah, I think we made this distinction several times in several episodes, but we're not playing a short game. We're playing a longer game. And to your point, right? We're talking about what is a Bitcoiner, or what attributes make up a Bitcoiner. For sure, you got to understand the basics, right? I mean, I actually I was on a Twitter space yesterday, and it was like Bitcoin miners, and they were talking about all this Bitcoin mining and stuff. And dude, I mean, like they were talking about like the business side of things, the finance side of things, right? Like one of the things that I'd never thought about, and I was asking them questions about, it was pretty interesting. Was they're running these huge mining rigs, right? Whether it's like a big company or if it's just a couple of dudes running a couple of miners in a backyard or something like that, whatever it is, right? You're getting paid in Bitcoin for fees, and if you find the hash, or the what do they call it, the key, whatever it is, you find the hash and you get the Bitcoin reward. It's all coming in Bitcoin, but you're paying you have to pay in dollars for the power to put all this stuff together, right? To fuel the whole thing. So then how do you pay for that? How do you pay for that power bill, right? This one guy was talking about he's paying $8,000 a month in power. That's a Bitcoiner, right? But he's paying $8,000 a month in power and in electric charges to run Bitcoin, or to run a Bitcoin miner and collect more Bitcoin. Anyways,
Bitcoin?
there's a lot, huh?
Does he actually get Bitcoin?
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't really looked much into the mining pieces, as far as like how fees work, how like verification works and all that stuff. I don't want to get into that now, but anyways, a Bitcoiner, I think another thing, right? You got to understand the fundamentals of what it is, how it works. But then I guess it's a little bit more subjective, right? To think about what's the long game of Bitcoin, because, I think you and I have similar views. I think there's some little differences, but I think the fundamentals of it, you and I pretty much agree on. And I got to imagine that somebody else is a little different, but we've also got to talk about having a low time preference, right? Meaning we don't need this tomorrow. We're playing a very long-term game. I think that's a true Bitcoiner. I don't know if you ever experience this. I experienced it at work, and it's kind of a funny joke. We have some fun with it, but I'm like the Bitcoin guy at the office, and so we'll get talking about it, and they'll like make fun of me and stuff. It's kind of fun. We mess around with each other and stuff. Stuff is bad, but they get to the point, and it's like, if you're a true Bitcoiner, I don't have to be so defensive, because don't worry, guys. I'm gonna be all right, and whenever you get to that point where whenever you're starting to feel defensive all the time, dude, because I did in the beginning, people were like making fun of it and like, oh, it's just like cold scratch or whatever. And I was like, golly, man, why do these guys not get it? Why can't they understand or whatever? And I'm just excited, wanting to share some stuff with these guys. But you've got to do your own research. I mean, I could talk until the freaking cows come home, but if they don't do their own research and look into things themselves and follow the rabbit trail themselves, I mean, you don't really appreciate the information, right? If you haven't done research into the current system to identify what the real need even is for Bitcoin, right? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, there's not even any real intrinsic value in Bitcoin. It's not real. It's just digital. Okay. That's like the most closed-minded thing you could say, where you're like, okay, so you haven't done any research. You haven't looked into this at all. Zero looking into
a lot of imagination. That's really, I would say you need a lot of imagination to be a Bitcoiner. Technically, like, I just think that
that makes sense.
Well, it is really hard. Like, and I hope there's other Bitcoin people who feel this way, but I very often, like, I'll sometimes, like, I'll wake up and I go, am I like fucking, am I crazy? Like,
Yeah, right.
will, like, I'll be like,
What am I doing putting all my money here or whatever? Yeah.
right. And then I'll just go back and read some of the fundamentals of money. And, at the end of the day, like, there's not a lot of people invested in Bitcoin. So you can look at that as bullish, or you could look at that as, well, better catch on, like, because if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think at the end of the day, like, once you get to that Bitcoin is inevitable piece and you believe that, and you have, like, I promise you, I got into Bitcoin before it was ever developed at a country, right? Like, or before it was ever legal tender. Now it's legal tender in 2 nations. I was into Bitcoin before anybody in Congress was talking about it, or like the or the president of the United States was going to issue an executive order to regulate a crypto market.
Next week.
Right, I was in it before Dogecoin was a penny. I was in it before, like, you know what I'm saying? So I've seen some things happen in just crypto and Bitcoin in general. Um, and it makes you kind of a believer. Now, I chose to be a believer in Bitcoin because I kept reading about what all of these things are. And eventually, once you do enough reading, you get to that Bitcoin channel where you're just like, yeah, if you're investing in any of these other ones, like, let's just be honest, it's not worth a lot. Like, they're most schemes. And most of them are really looking to just suck some money up and then figure out a way to get out.
Yeah.
So I think that a Bitcoiner has to be imaginative, because I'm telling you,
You've got to imagine a whole new world, dog.
if you just got into it, the next piece is probably, well, Russia is probably going to start accepting it for oil exchanges. So, like, I guess that's it. But, like, people don't understand, just a year ago, that was like conspiracy theory. Bitcoin is often associated with, like, alt-right conspiracy theorists for some odd reason. And maybe it's because Bitcoiners are more adept to freedom than anything else, and they really don't. And the imagination piece is really high, and the creativity piece is real high, because some of these developers in Bitcoin, you are really developing the entire financial future of the world. And that's kind of like developing the Constitution of the United States way back when, because it's like, wow, we have to project 200 years here, but it needs to be able to govern a society. That's exactly what Bitcoin is. And people obviously don't think that they'll join Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin or whatever, but that's why they don't understand. It's inevitable, because it's such a brilliant advancement. Like, there's nothing that you can do. It'd be like trying to stop it's like trying to stop the internet, except for faster. And so I think a Bitcoiner is somebody who, like, you might not even agree with everything about Bitcoin. You might not even think it's the best one. You might look at some of these other networks and go, yeah, like, they do some cool stuff. Like, I wish Bitcoin already had that, or I wish, like, Bitcoin was easier to code into, or whatever your example might be. But the thing is Bitcoin is the durable, undeniable, inevitable monetary backing of the world. And it's a network like we've never seen before. None of these other cryptos have the network, and none of these other cryptos can ever imitate what Bitcoin did. So I just think a Bitcoiner is somebody who accepts the inevitability of it. It's an inevitable thing, more than it is like, once you accept that inevitable piece of Bitcoin, Nick, like, you would agree, there's some bad things that could be associated with that over the next 10 years. I mean, switching to a new currency can be rough. It can be turbulent. There's going to be some very upset old money that doesn't want this to happen. There's a lot of malinvestment in society. And at the end of the day, we're just going to have to find a way around it. But Bitcoin really is the only solution. And I think that's what a Bitcoiner is somebody who has really worked through a lot of this stuff and gone, wow, yeah, probably just need some Bitcoin. Like, we don't really need any of these other ones to mess it up. Like, it's really just Bitcoin. All the other ones, there's really nothing out
there. And the things that we had mentioned in the store of value episode and the medium of exchange episode are really those core fundamentals of Bitcoin that no other crypto is like. No other crypto has the core protocol that Bitcoin does. And here's an interesting piece too, right? you can copy the Bitcoin code and create an exact copy of Bitcoin, right? You could go out and create, we could create Nyc and Griff coin, and we could exactly copy Bitcoin's code, and change some names and call it Nyc and Griff coin instead of Bitcoin, and it's the same exact code, but the code is not the network. And the network is what the most powerful, one of the most power, the power part of Bitcoin, right? Obviously, Bitcoin's got the core protocol, but that does nothing without the network. And the network at this point has been built so much. It's got a huge infrastructure that it's getting built on, that is continuing to be built.
Biggest network in the world.
Dude, it's the biggest computer network in the world, 100%.
Monetary network in the world. And it's crazy, like that's what we're talking about. If you're a Bitcoiner, you look at the fundamentals more than you look at the price in USD, because at the end of the day, good investment is something that the fundamentals work. You're like, oh, this is just going to keep getting better. Like the business works. It'd be like investing in Amazon back in 2000 when they all, like the .com boom or bust happened, and Amazon goes to $2. Well, if you actually learned the company of Amazon, believed in its founder, you understood it a lot better than other people, like we kind of talk about Bitcoin, you're just going to ride the wave. Like you understand, like you're invested into something that works. And that is the problem mainly with the malinvestment we talk about in today's society that Bitcoin will get rid of. People, you can just throw your money in the stupidest things and make money back right now. And at the end of the day, that's not good. Like, that's not good. We don't need that many lotteries. Lotteries don't produce enough winners. Lotteries produce like one winner and everybody else gets screwed. And a lot of investment nowadays really is like a lottery. Even our housing market is turning into like a lottery run. It's like, okay, everything's going to be worth a ton, but we all know this can't keep going up like this, because at some point when the demand does fizzle out, and it will in the next 10 years, what's going to happen?
Hey, you're not a true Bitcoiner, right? Tell me what you think. You're not a true Bitcoiner unless you've gotten somebody to believe, and you've orange pilled them. You've gave them all the details, and they're like, "Oh shit, okay, I get it. I think I'm gonna buy." You get somebody excited enough to buy. Because if you buy your own Bitcoin, right, and you own some Bitcoin, you're more apt to go look at and see, okay, what's going on here? Because you got a little bit of skin in the game, right? But you're not a true Bitcoiner until you get somebody to buy, and then the price tanks, and you're like, dude, I'm telling you, just chill out, just sit on it, don't worry about it. And so it was interesting going back to our dollar cost averaging conversation earlier. Janae and I were looking at our average buys, and I'll have to do the math because I haven't tracked all of my buys and stuff so far, but you can go back and see like the price that you bought at, how much you bought, and all that kind of stuff. So, but we were looking at that with our dollar cost averaging. As long as you're not just doing one lump sum and letting it sit, you can dollar cost average yourself short to midterm into being in a much better position, right? If we had just put our one lump sum in whenever we first bought at 57, well, we'd be way down right now. We're at like 39, 40, right? But because I've dollar cost averaged along the way, we're really not down that much. We're down like, $100, and we've got significantly more than that in the market, in Bitcoin, so it's like, we're only down $100 when we should be down, if we had just put a one lump sum in. So it's funny. Yeah. You're probably not a real Bitcoiner unless you've told somebody to get in and they get in and they buy and the price takes, and you're like, sorry about that, man, but you were going to burn that money on something else anyway. Just sit on it and it'll come back. Don't worry,
Well, this isn't financial advice. This is just us talking about the dematerialization of money into the internet. This is just talking about, like me and Nick have said, an asset that can never be devalued over time, and that you can transfer over space and time for nothing. So now you can take your value anywhere in the world. And I think that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about too much more. But we're going to have another episode coming out this week where we talk to a shitcoiner. I mean, I don't mean to
Right on this guy's head, huh?
Yeah, without saying it. He's like 3 days behind the news. He will talk about every altcoin imaginable. But the funniest thing, I swear, like I just said, he will text us like 3 days after something's happened, and he'll be like, "Guys, did you see this?" I'm like, "Man, it's like altcoin news slower or something." I was like, "Dude, this happened like 3 days ago. We're past this. Like, it's not even a problem anymore." But no,
so
we
for you guys, yeah, we're
because we're bringing on not Bitcoiner, and
yeah.
the first time we've done that on this podcast. Even our last guest was definitely he might be even more hardcore than us. So like, you know, at the end of the day.
Well, I don't know that he's not a Bitcoiner. I think he's a big Bitcoiner, but I think he sees other things a little different than we do and how they all play together. But he's definitely, I don't think he's a Bitcoin maximalist. He's definitely not a Bitcoin maximalist, but he likes playing the game. And he did say right at one point that his time horizon is very low, right? Meaning he's in and out. He's playing some of the quick in and out like altcoin games. And I think he might do the same with Bitcoin as well. But yeah, so you guys listening and watching, we are having Nyc Coleman come on the show. We're filming that one here this afternoon. I don't know if when we're gonna post that. We'll get it figured out. But so Griff and I, we were teammates in college playing football together. We were both quarterbacks at the University at Albany. Griff played in JUCO and then at Nevada. I walked on at Oklahoma State, transferred, went to an NAIA school in Kansas, went to JUCO, and then went to Albany. And so Griff and I got to spend a year there. And our center there at the University of Albany is Nyc Coleman. He's a good friend. We get to have some fun. It's funny. Nico and Griff really get going after each other, and it is too fun to watch. Especially on text message, because it's all there recorded, and then we can go back and look at it later, and we're like, man, you know, sometimes we'll get in our group text. I'll come back and I'll check my phone. I'll be at the office or something, and you guys have gone back and forth, and I got like 30 missed texts. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, well, it only happens from time to time, and just going into this next episode, you know, it was important for us to talk about today, like right before this episode, what it means to be a Bitcoiner a little bit. And it's the imagination, it's the low time preference, it is the one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin thesis, and the inevitability, the durability, like that you understand in your mind that this thing is coming no matter what happens. Just so everybody knows, Nico has increased his Bitcoin percentage in his portfolio ever since we started arguing. I have not bought any more altcoins. So you can you'll see how these arguments go. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna get like a gallon of coffee. I'll be on top of his ass. So it'll be fun.
No, it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Nico's a good friend. We always have fun with Nico. He's definitely one of my best friends. Griff, I don't know. I can't talk for you, but it'll be fun. I'm excited to have him on.
He's a fun target in these conversations. We'll see how it goes.
Well, Nico's a natural arguer. You know, this guy could ride something all the way down to the end of it. You know, and it makes for a ton of fun, especially when it's like, you know, we all enjoy talking about Bitcoin. And, you know, just the crypto space in general is like, you know, after you really jump into Bitcoin and you're a true Bitcoin maxi, you start looking at these other things and you're like, oh boy, what do these guys got cooking up this time, you know? And so it'll be fun. It'll be fun to hop on. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Nyc and Griff Show. We always like to say, if you want to come talk, man, come hit us on Twitter. We are, hold on a minute. Come hit us on Twitter at Nyc and Griff Show. We like to post cool content. We like to talk with people, you know, back and forth, whether it's directly on Twitter or just via direct message. But hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to chat with you over there. And if you guys are not watching on YouTube now, come check us out on YouTube. It's the Nyc and Griff Show. We've got our first 5. No, is this 6? Yeah, we've got our first 6 episodes up here. This will be number 7. So some of these videos are just just Griff and I hanging out. Others like last time we pulled up a bunch of charts. So
we're getting more time and time.
We're figuring this thing out as we go. So we're having some fun along the way.
We'll interview some more cool people. We just we're just taking it one episode at a time. Nobody ever said that you had to make a podcast for the followers. Although it's we do have like 40 on Twitter now, so we're growing nice and slowly. At the end of the day, me and Nick aren't making this content, like we said at the beginning, for anything. I mean, like, I'm up at 6 a.m. talking about it. Nick's over there in the morning in Tulsa talking about it. Mainly just if we just flip a couple people from doing all of these episodes once a week, super easy in the morning, it's worth it for us. Because we feel like, as many plebes as we can bring into Bitcoin before it gets big, as many people we can get to 10 million sats before it gets to $1 million a coin or some crazy number. We did our job, because, wealth really should be distributed more evenly in the world. I do believe that. I think everybody really believes that. But, you have to invest in the right things to be a part of whatever you consider the top 1%. You have to do the right things to get there. And, Bitcoin very, very, very well could be what the 1% is in 10 to 20 years. If you didn't touch it, well, sucks. You're going to have to work for it. Whereas other people aren't just going to have it. So if we can get 2 people, if we can get Nico, mention that portfolio more, we're doing our job.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys for listening to another episode, and we will see you next time.